Other than when people became gorilla zoo experts, what are some other topics your Facebook friends became experts on overnight? Anything to do with parenting once they popped out a kid. I ducking hate this. You pushed out a human. Not a PhD. Anything having to do with the law. Their rights or law enforcement work. I'm a lawyer and anytime there's a decision on a highly publicized case I have to shy away from social media for fear that the hot takes of the common man will give me a ducking aneurysm. My uncle works as a prosecutor and had a court case where it was him prosecuting a sovereign citizen. I'm pretty sure his brain was trying to heal itself during that whole ordeal. Every election seasons everyone becomes an economic expert. I took economics in high school. That counts as me being qualified. Right? Just to be clear. Not macro or micro. Just economics. I have a BA in economics and I know nothing. Climate change. Vaccinations. And around January there's a lot of fitness and diet knowledge being shared. I do appreciate the fitness tips around January. It puts a false sense of hope that I might get off my lazy ass. It makes me feel good about myself that I actually thought about it. Even if it's only for a moment. My English class was reviewing Romeo and Juliet and someone asked what would have happened if Juliet had married Paris. Bear with me. And then all these 15 YOs started pulling these facts of mortality of 16th century teenagers out of their asses like their diets made it so puberty happened earlier and childbirth killed 80% of women back then. Constitutional law. I must have missed that day in high school. The health benefits of Shakeology. And the financial freedom attained by selling it to your friends. Is this like the saran wrap? Yes. Except a mixer cup and powder. Dear Shakeology people. Welcome to a shitty version of over a decade ago. Gluten intolerance and the many woes of today's food industry. I get chastised all the time for being lactose intolerant and eating ice cream all the time. Bitch. You don't tell me what to put. Or not put. In my body. I don't know how severe your intolerance is. But I'm also lactose intolerant. And if I eat ice cream without those special enzymes, the result could probably be considered biological warfare. Forest fires. Once the big one took out Fort McMurray not too long ago, my Facebook feed was filled with people's input on how to put it out. It was pathetic. Everyone. Grab a bucket and move it along like an assembly line. Now I'm no expert. But I'm nearly sure just throwing buckets on a fire is not going to help. There needs to be water in it. Physics. People who can't quote Newton's first law. But everything is quantum fields. Man. Watch one YouTube video and all of a sudden they knew what jet fuel can melt or not melt. Everyone during El Bogot in Canada despite not understanding anything about parliament. The politicians blocking the aisle were filibustering the vote. It is common in parliament when you don't have the votes to delay the process. Remember Connie? Everyone became an overnight expert on African warlords. Watch one real documentary about General Bin Laden. Or General Butt Naked and you will know true evil and why you can't fight warlords through Facebook. Connie was a ducking joke back then and he was never the worst of the bunch. Apparently 90% of all spiders in Alabama are brown recluses. According to my friends who saw something run away from them in their bathroom. There's always total certainty that each of the spiders is a brown recluse. I prefer to function under Pascal's wager of spiders. It is in one's own best interest to behave as if every spider is a brown recluse. Since the possibility of getting bitten by one of those and suffering the consequences outweighs any advantage of believing otherwise. Every time the Olympics rolls around, people become gymnastics experts from the comfort of their armchair. Britain is currently deciding whether or not we wish to remain in the European Union. Or leave. Oh god. The people on my Facebook who are suddenly experts on international relations, trade agreements, human rights, the history of the Conservative Party in Britain, migration, immigrants, asylum seekers, all the money Britain sends to and receives from the EU. And so on. And so on. It's unbearable. MMA. As soon as Ronda Rousey and Conor McGregor because pretty much household names. Every dickhead and their dog turned into an MMA expert. Therapist here. Anytime a criminal case involves any mention of mental illness, expect an army of sudden experts armed with law and order arounds. Bonus points for when they begin to invoke dated, revised theories, or my favorite, using non-clinical terminology and adding craft like cereal and clinical to sound more right. They became experts on how meat is bad for you and that organic food is better. I grew up on a farm all my life, don't tell me you know how to grow crops better than me. This actually happens quite a bit and is called bike shedding. Essentially, the more subjective something becomes, the more people will tend to care about it. People will leave more important and complex issues to be solved by experts. But smaller issues that boil down to a matter of opinion mean that everyone is an expert. For example, which way the toilet paper hangs. People love to argue about that because there really is no right answer. Hang in front. Obviously, so anyone who has ever pooped is now an expert in the field. I think the problem comes from media and how bigger issues are portrayed nowadays. Choosing the President of the United States, while extremely important, comes off as a matter of opinion. Now, everyone who lives in the country knows what's best for it, and becomes an expert. Any topic that is revealed to not be black and white is something that people will argue about like they know what the hell is going on. Every 4 years ducktards become football, soccer experts. The key to the game is kicking the ball around, scoring more points than the other team, and orange halves at halftime. Thanks for the insight, Madane. All of my friends were granted law degrees from the University of Netflix after making a Her became popular. Psychology. Everyone thinks they are so great at analyzing what other people are thinking. No. You are not suddenly an expert because you took Psych 101 or read a Malcolm Gladwell book. Oh my god. Where do I ducking start with my old group of friends? The day after that video surfaced of that crazy college administrator beating the shit out of that kid for having dreads while being white. 3 of my friends posted a tepid defense of her reprehensible actions by saying that cultural appropriation was a huge problem and needed to be tackled. Of course. Because all 3 were Tumblriness. They all had brightly dyed hair. Apparently ignorant of the fact that because the first instance of hair dyeing was found in the hieroglyphs of ancient Egypt and in ruins of Egyptian cities, they themselves were guilty of cultural appropriation. After Bernie started running, almost all of my liberal friends became overnight experts in democratic socialism. I'm a Bernie supporter, but I read up as much as I possibly could about democratic socialism from as many different sources as I could before posting anything remotely related to it. A vast majority of them, I discovered, had no idea what democratic socialism actually is. A few of my friends began praising Vladimir Putin after his Federal Assembly fronted a bill to label GMOs, applauding him for refusing to poison his citizens. Apparently all were ignorant of the fact that Vladimir Putin is a demagogue and a virtual dictator. Also ignorant of the fact that there's nothing ducking poisonous about GMOs. I could go on and on and on. They were the kind of liberals that made me ashamed to be a liberal. Immigration. To solve it, just build a wall. That way, you don't have to look at the problem. Tech trends. Like Bitcoin. They read one article and suddenly they're an expert. Actually, people have been following cryptocurrencies and blockchains, economics etc. for years. Nutrition and endocrinology. No. Betty. Eating soy will not cause me to grow massive breasts and waste away into a pile of bones. And stop ducking posting that Binding Foods article. I sheet fine and bananas aren't a problem. Guns. Anytime there's a major shooting, everyone suddenly knows everything there is to know about guns and gun crime. And this goes for both sides. I think it's ridiculous that people care so much about one gorilla when they'll happily munch through cows and chickens. My sister is vegan, but owns a lot of leather clothing and purses. Apparently cows hate being eaten, but don't mind not having skin. Football and Olympic sports during the Olympics. People with no interest in history of or clue about swimming and track and field suddenly become world experts every 4 years because Olympics. I corrected a guy during 2012 who was woefully wrong about how swimming worked and he just kept repeating, "Were you a professional? Were you a professional? No? Thought not." As if that made him right and the three of us telling him he was wrong. Wrong. I wasn't a professional. A very tiny number of people make good money from swimming, but it did pay for college and have me travel the world. But hey, fat online marketing dude from Las Vegas, I guess you win this round of swimming trivia: D. Trans people using the restroom of their identified gender. Basically, if a trans person doesn't pass, that's the issue. I've seen so many jokes of piss all over the toilet seat, and expect this soon, ladies. And protect your wife and children. Trans people have been using the restroom of their identified gender all this time without people knowing about it. You didn't care before? Shrug. Any case occurring in a court of law, whether it be the Tom Brady appeal, George Zimmerman case Anthony, etc. It all depends on the facts and the law, and if you are not in the courtroom almost every day, it would be very hard to really understand any of that. Freedom of speech twits who don't understand who, what or how that actually applies in practice and probably never read the origins of it, but spout nonsense about protected speech, rights violations, etc. And in general, get riled up over something that they know nothing to at best. Have gross misconceptions about any medical or health issues, especially weight. Everyone has some new diet that you have to try or knows everything about BMI and starvation mode. As soon as I got pregnant, everyone I knew and everyone I saw on the street or on a bus or on a train was an expert on childbirth and child rearing, whether they had children or not. Marijuana laws in the process of getting it legalized. Yes. Justin said he'd legalize weed. No. It's not going to happen overnight. Yes. People are still getting arrested because it's still not legal. The people who made fun of people for studying economics in school are now experts because it's an election year. I wonder how many people are going to ace their dissertations because of all the crazy economic plans that have sprouted this year. Lots of my friends became enthusiastic with wrestling when the match between Mayflower and Pacquiao happened. Edit. Apparently boxing. The war on Drew Gus. Duck and Drew Gus cause no harm. They do. That's precisely why they should be decriminalized. How the whole transgender bathroom issue is basically just gonna hang a sign on the door that says, "Hey, you with the pen 15. Come grade my daughter since you're allowed to share the bathroom with her." And how the country is going to hell in a handbasket because of Obama. Parenting in general. Attachment parenting vs cry it out. Baby-led weaning vs purees, etc. Everyone is so judgmental. I just roll my eyes and move on. Entitlements. Everyone believes they should have something, or that small thing that didn't happen is completely unjustified, so their cousin's brother's roommate's friend who took a law course is gonna sue. Maybe you're just a douchebag. Like people who post passively aggressive or blatantly racist things on any social media trying to hide behind free speech. Encryption. Everyone who doesn't have a fairly comprehensive understanding of how it's used tries to have moderate for or against stances about it. Like maybe only governments and banks should be able to use it, and will argue the point to death. If you tell them encryption is math, you can't regulate it. And any attempts to try will be utter failures and cause economic havoc. They call you a fanatic and or say it's a slippery slope argument, even though you're 100% right. E-cigarettes. It's amusing how people that don't even smoke know it's going to kill me quicker than regular cigs. Mental illness. I'm a college student at a pretty high-ranking university. Every finals week everyone becomes an expert on mental illness and how exams are bad for you because they make you depressed and anxious and how you're worth more than your grade. You're all stressed out because you're on Facebook instead of studying. Being a single parent. I think single parents should spend less time boasting about it on Facebook and more time doing actual things for their kids. E-cigarettes. Suddenly they blow up. Cause 37 types of cancer. Literally kill you if you look at them. And they're unregulated, so obviously the people who make them don't care and you will die by yesterday. I'm no expert, but I did my homework and can confirm that they won't kill you yesterday. Politics. I'm talking the super liberal posts of people I've been in bands with. Or the super conservative crap from my family. Either one always ends up with a clash with me stuck smack dab in the middle needing to choose a side. Honestly, I couldn't care less. Go smoke your weed up. Have your fourth kid. And leave me alone. Climate change. Vaccines. Suicide. Muslims. Black lives and cops. You just posted the Grand Slam. Yes. This implies you have actual friends on Facebook. Jogged for a mile equals fitness expert and trainer. Check my Fitbit. Bread. I run for days. This year? How to handle classified material and what the consequences, both legal and practical, for improperly doing so can be. I am an IT professional and I have held clearance. There is a lot of training involved and there's maybe only about a dozen people on my Facebook feed who have had any. Here are the things I'm sick of saying over and over again. Yes. Hillary supporters. It is in fact a crime. And a very serious one. To mishandle TSAT national security information. This is a go to prison type of crime. And I made a mistake is not a defense. Making a mistake when handling that material is specifically what is illegal. They do not duck around with that sheet. No. Bernie supporters. Simply mishandling classified material is not treason, espionage, sedition, or whatever other scary sounding legal rubric you want to color it with. That type of overblown political rhetoric helps absolutely no one. Least of all your candidate. And it muddles public understanding of some very weighty and serious matters. Stop it. Siphoning off classified material to a non-secure system. That is, a server located in your basement. Is something no Secretary of State has ever done before. This isn't equivalent to simply putting a folder in the wrong filing cabinet. It exposes national security secrets to foreign entities. If you need a non-technical analogy, it's more like James Bond leaving an open briefcase full of MI6 dossiers at the Heathrow Airport baggage claim. It is not a minor clerical error. It's a monumental duck-up that undermines active operations and could potentially cost people their lives. I realize that a lot of this is pretty specialized information that most people would have no occasion to learn. But damn is it frustrating to see people go jackrabbiting off about this issue when they clearly have no idea what on earth they are talking about.